Hello and welcome. Today we are diving into one of the most exciting and honestly surprising frontiers in all of medicine, the powerful secret connection between your gut and your brain. And believe me, this is a story that is going to completely change the way you think about everything, from your mood to your long-term health. So let's just get right to it with a fact that might sound like science fiction. You have a second brain. And no, that is not a metaphor. It's a real thing, and once you understand how it works, it could totally transform how we all approach our physical and mental health. So, what on earth is this second brain? When we talk about having a gut feeling, it turns out we're way closer to the literal truth than we ever imagined. We're talking about a real, physical, and incredibly complex network of nerves. Okay, so it's officially called the enteric nervous system, or the ENS for short. Just try to picture this. It's a kind of mesh-like network made up of millions and millions of neurons. We're talking more neurons than you have in your entire spinal cord. And it's all embedded right into the walls of your gut. It's so powerful, so complex, that it can actually operate independently, which is why scientists have nicknamed it our second brain. And its job? Oh, it goes way beyond just handling digestion. It's constantly sending signals that influence your mood, your decisions, your overall well-being. All right, so if we have two brains, how in the world do they talk to each other? Well, it turns out they're connected by this incredible biological superhighway. This whole communication network is called the microbiota gut-brain axis. The most important thing to get here is that this is a two-way street. It's bidirectional. Sure, your main brain sends signals down to your gut, telling it to digest and so on, but, and this is the really cool part, your gut talks right back. And as you can see from the meme, the trillions of microbes living in your gut, well, they aren't just passengers along for the ride. They are major, major players in this constant conversation. And the main physical line for this conversation is the vagus nerve. I want you to think of it like a massive fiber optic cable, a literal superhighway that's buzzing with a constant stream of information flowing in both directions. It directly connects your brainstem to your gut, making it the absolute critical link in this whole axis. So if the vagus nerve is the highway, what kind of messages are actually being sent back and forth? What's the language of the gut-brain axis? The answer, in a word, is chemicals. Let me just ask you a quick question. We've all heard of serotonin, right? It's one of our most famous neurotransmitters, often called the happy chemical, because it's so important for regulating our mood. Now, where do you think most of it is made? The logical, obvious answer has to be the brain, right? Well, it's not even close. A truly staggering 90% of your body's serotonin is produced in your gut. Just let that sink in for a second. The chemical that we most associate with happiness and well-being isn't primarily made in our head, it's made in our digestive system. Your gut is quite literally a serotonin factory. You see, our brain's health depends on this really delicate balance of chemical messengers. Some, like dopamine, they act like the accelerator pedal, ramping up our motivation and alertness. Others, like GABA and serotonin, are the brakes. They help calm things down, they regulate our mood, and maintaining this chemical seesaw is absolutely essential for our mental well-being. And okay, here is where it gets truly mind-blowing. Your gut microbes are active, hands-on participants in this whole chemical balancing act. They don't just sit there. They are tiny chemical factories. They can actually trigger the release of that serotonin we were just talking about. They can control the raw materials needed to make dopamine. And some bacteria, like lactobacillus, can even produce the calming chemical GABA all by themselves. Is that not just incredible? Now, this whole communication system is brilliant when it's working properly. But what happens when it breaks down? To see just how serious this can be, let's look at a case study. Parkinson's disease. So we typically think of Parkinson's as a disease of the brain. And that's true. At its core, it involves a protein called alpha-synuclein misfolding and clumping together. This process eventually leads to the death of our crucial dopamine-producing neurons, which causes the tremors and motor symptoms we all associate with the disease. But here is a crucial clue that scientists have been piecing together for a while now. Over 80% of people with Parkinson's have significant gut problems, like really severe constipation. And here's the real kicker. These gut issues often show up years, sometimes even a full decade, before the more obvious motor symptoms even begin. This strange observation led to something called Brack's hypothesis, and it suggests something radical. that for many people, Parkinson's may not start in the brain at all. The theory goes like this. Some kind of trigger, maybe a virus or a toxin, first causes that alpha-synuclein protein to misfold in the gut's own nervous system. Then, these misfolded proteins act kind of like seeds, spreading the problem from cell to cell and then traveling right up that vagus nerve superhighway, directly into the brain. And that's where the disease really takes hold. So, what could possibly trigger this whole cascade in the gut? Well, one of the leading ideas is something called gut dysbiosis. That's basically just a harmful imbalance in our gut microbes. This imbalance can lead to what's known as a leaky gut, where the intestinal wall becomes too permeable. This lets toxins slip through, which creates chronic, low-grade inflammation. And that inflammatory environment might just be the perfect condition to kickstart that initial protein misfolding. Now, that is a pretty radical way to rethink a major brain disease. But what's so amazing about it is that it also opens up an incredibly hopeful new question for us. Think about it. If a problem that starts in the gut could be contributing to the disease, then could fixing the gut actually be part of the solution? This idea has led to a total explosion of new research into things like microbiota-targeted therapies, especially probiotics. Now, I have to be clear, this research is still in the early days, but the initial findings are incredibly promising. In human trials, certain probiotics have been shown to really help with those major gut issues for patients, and some studies even show modest improvements in their motor symptoms. And in animal models, the results are even more striking. We're seeing probiotics reduce inflammation in the brain and even help protect those vital dopamine-producing neurons from dying off. And all of this brings us to the big takeaway, which I think this quote just captures perfectly. For decades, we've thought of brain health as a product of basically two things, our genetics and our life experiences. But we now know there's a third, incredibly powerful factor in that equation, the trillions of microbes living inside us. They are actively shaping how we think, how we feel, and how we respond to the world. And it leaves us with this truly profound question to ponder. For so long, we have looked to the head for the answers to our most challenging brain disorders. But maybe, just maybe, the future of brain health is hiding somewhere we never thought to look, deep inside our gut.